Hello, thank you for being in a new video. This time I have an unboxing of the Nubia Flip 5G. Let's get started. This is a new flip that has arrived in Mexico. In fact, it is the first addition of Nubia as a cell phone brand to Mexico. Remember that Nubia is the parent brand of ZTE. But Nubia is not only limited to launching mid-range and low-end devices, it also gets to launch high-end and premium devices. So this device is an interesting bet because it is a foldable that seeks to compete in a foldable mid-range segment. So we could name him because it does not bet on putting the highest in specifications, but that allows it to have a considerably lower price than other folding markets. So let's take it out of its box to get to know it. Although in its box you can already tell that it comes with a close collaboration with Telcel, just like ZTE works, so it seems that they will have the same line. Note that here we are anticipating the resolutions of the cameras, the screen with Full HD plus resolution, Android 13. In this case, I think it is clearly a disadvantage because it does not come with the latest version. It has 256 gigabytes of storage, that's very good. 33 watts quick charge and 4,310,000 amp battery, which for talking about a foldable that's looking to be economical, I think is considerably good. And look, the processor is a Snapdragon 7 Gen 1. I think that will also be a positive thing. On the back of the box, they also share with us its specs, but I'll tell you about them one by one in a moment. And let's read the cautionary notes they give us, which are usually given by all foldable manufacturers. For example, it says not to remove the layer of the inner surface, that is the mica that comes attached. It is a special protection, so it is not recommended to remove it. It says here that if you want to replace it, go to an authorized official ZTE customer service center. It also says to bend and protect the phone properly, not to bend it in the opposite direction, and to avoid pressing sharp objects against the screen when bending. It also says to keep it away from foreign objects like liquids, sand, or anything like that, because it doesn't have some level of resistance against water and dust. And finally, it says that sounds and slight wrinkles are a normal occurrence when folding and unfolding the device. I insist, these same warnings are given to you by all folding device manufacturers, except those that are water resistant. They don't tell you not to put it in water, but they do tell you not to put it near dust or sand. So let's get it out of here. And here it is with us. I have to say it's got a little bit of a soft touch back cover, and I like that it doesn't get fingerprints on it. So it looks well developed in that regard. In this case, I get the feeling that the hinge comes to generate some level of vibration even when you're activating it. ZTE claims that it has passed the 200,000 fold test and is still working, so it can give you a good level of durability as well. What do you say we turn this device on, and while it's powering up, let's take a look at what else comes in the box and then compare it to some other high-end foldables. Let's start by looking at what comes in this little envelope, or, well, we could say it's a big envelope because it's pretty thick. So, we start with the tool to remove the SIM card tray. We're also going to find a quick start guide, which I've known as the little slips of paper all my life. We're going to find also this Nubia VIP service card, since it's a device obviously that falls into this category, and if you come to have any problems, you can contact them to try to solve it. And finally, something that I loved is that it does bring a case, unlike other folding devices on the market that do not include this type of accessory. As you can see that despite being a mid-range folding device, it comes with a very interesting kit. Let's put this cover on so you can see more or less what it looks like, and I like that it's a matte case. It doesn't have a super reflective finish, so I think it doesn't hurt the aesthetics of your device. Obviously, it's a case that comes split in two to leave area for the hinge. So note that the case is already in place and the device is perfectly well protected. Let's see what else comes here in the box. In this case, there are still two boxes over here. So let's pull out the contents of the first one, and it's the 33-watt charger that I mentioned a moment ago. It's a charger that comes with the USB-C connector, and this is a good thing. In this case, it's not an exaggeratedly fast charge, but remember that it also has to do with the density of the battery. And in a foldable device, they usually have to put a battery with a lot of density that cannot receive such a fast charge. But for the review, and soon we will do a test where we will show you the charging speed. In this case also comes the cable from USB-C to USB-C, so it is appreciated that they do include charger and all these accessories, because overall it does give us the feeling of being a premium device by including all this kind of stuff. So let's put all this away again and focus on the phone to get to know its specs and take an initial look at some of its features. I already have this device set up here with me, so let's take a quick look at its features. Some of them I already told you about, but I'm going to remind you of them. It passed the 200,000 fold test, so it's a hinge that I think has a good design. Also, the hinge design is without a gap, at least without a clearly visible gap, because if you look very closely you would see some light areas on the other side. But unlike, for example, the Galaxy Z Flip 4, which still had a gap here, in this case we see a considerably advanced hinge design. Although the maximum semi-folded angle is close to 90 degrees, because if you try to open it a little bit more it's going to end up laying down. Even so, for being a mid-range folding device, I would say that the hinge design is considerably good, because yes, it can stay completely rigid at certain angles, you just can't open it too much because, as I say, the weight will gain. The back cover has a design that they call zirconium sandblasted. That is to say that it comes with a matte design. It will not be marked by fingerprints, and that I tell you that I loved it. It also incorporates aluminum frames and comes with a side fingerprint reader in red hue, characteristic of Nubia. The screen is 6.9 inches in its diagonal with resolution higher than Full HD. It is 2790 by 1180 pixels, giving a density of 443. So it is a really very good screen with 120 in its refresh rate. In fact, we could also say that it is a screen that supports a 10-bit color depth, so it has very good capabilities, and in this sense it does give the feeling of being a high-end screen. It also has an external screen that will allow us to access some quick widgets or notifications, even the camera. In the review I will tell you in more detail how this outer screen works and what it allows and does not allow you to do, but for now it seems to have good capabilities. The front camera is 16 megapixels with f2.5 aperture. Here I have the preview for you to see. I took a picture in a backlit scenario where the background looks completely burnt, and after taking the picture it seems to me that it managed to make a better balance of highlights and shadows, although there is still a little bit more overexposed area, but it was very close to the sun, so I think it can be understandable. However, the colors of the front camera seem to be not as attractive as we could find with the rear camera, but remember that with this device you can also take selfies with the rear camera. This camera is 50 megapixels with f1.8 aperture and then has a 2 megapixel depth camera with f2.4 aperture. Definitely that depth camera is not welcome at this price. We would have liked an ultra wide camera instead. And note that with the main camera the selfies go completely up a notch. Look at the difference between the color of the shirt taking the picture with the front camera and now with the rear camera. You definitely gain much more intensity of colors, more contrast, more detail. Then having this feeling of folding equipment, definitely recommended to take selfies will be to access the camera from the back cover so you have a higher quality. Just take care that the camera is not stained with fingerprints, because in that case it will look a poor quality photo. It is important that you clean this lens well before taking the picture. The depth camera will help us to detect precisely the background and foreground for these portrait pictures. At least it seems to do a good job in that sense, although there are other devices that without the need for a front camera can take very good portraits. So in this case I insist that I don't really like that they incorporate this depth camera, and the portrait photographs I think don't have as much level of detail indoors. In fact, it's a camera that I think is going to do well outdoors, but indoors it looks like it might fall a little short. Here we are looking at an outdoor photograph. I think it gives us good image quality, good contrast, good colors and good detail. It allows us to zoom in 2x's as a shortcut on the main camera, but it doesn't seem to maintain optical quality. So I think the 50 megapixel sensor doesn't seem to be that well used. The maximum zoom is 10x, and I think it again falls short of being something that remarkable. I think there are other devices with 50 megapixel sensors that have achieved better performance. In fact, this is a picture with the 50 megapixel mode, so you can see that if it does capture good detail, then it is probably better to take pictures with 50 megapixels and then crop them if you want to have a better zoom. One good thing is that it can also record video in 4K, although the front camera can only record in Full HD. And while you're taking a picture or recording a video of someone, you can activate the external display so that the person behind you can see themselves through this screen. So I think it takes good advantage of the features of being a foldable that usually have two screens, and this one takes good advantage of it. In fact, note that the camera interface is also going to adapt depending on the folding that the device has. Although apparently you cannot move the viewfinder to the screen that remains as a base, then it could still be perfecting, but it is a good start if you get to take advantage of the features of being a folding. The battery of this device is 4310 milliamperes and supports a 33-watt charge, which is included in the box. For the review, we will do an exhaustive test of how long the battery lasts and how long it takes to charge, but it is anticipated to have a good duration to talk about the foldable market that always has batteries a little smaller because of the shape of the device, and also a charge that will surely be considerably fast. In fact, Nubia assures that it will charge from 0 to 50 in only 18 minutes, then I think it could become useful. We will find 256 gigabytes of storage. That's definitely a very good thing because you can back up all your photos, videos, apps, games, and the device is not going to fill up easily. It also comes with 8 gigabytes of physical RAM, and you can extend up to another 12 gigabytes of virtual RAM. Remember that I do not usually recommend virtual RAM, but I test it as it comes configured from the factory, and in this case it comes with 12 gigabytes activated from the factory, and I think it is an excess. It comes with Android 13. This I think is what I liked least about this device, because although it is not a version that is already completely obsolete if you have a year left in the life of this device, because as time goes by, you know that the applications are raising the minimum requirements of the operating system for the device. Would have loved it to come with Android 14 out of the box, although at least in this case it seems that they are sending updates. It has just received a security patch, but we are not sure if it will be updated to Android 14. I would hope so. By the way, I had forgotten to mention that if you have stereo sound, although it has no headphone jack, and finally the processor is the Snapdragon 7 Gen 1, we will test this processor through this benchmark, but we have already tested it and is a processor that has left us a good feeling, although by the little space here for cooling could perhaps give a little lower performance than it would give in a non-folding device, but let's wait for the result and come back. And ready, here we have the results. In multi-core came up to 3029 points, and a single core 1051 points. Just for reference, is above the Snapdragon 7 Gen 2 if it serves as a datum. Anyway, remember that in the video review we will do a full analysis of this device and its performance, so you can know how powerful it is when playing games or doing any other activity. For now, we have reached the end of this video. If you liked, you can indicate it, and we'll see you next time.